Tom Cotton, who's the chairman of the Senate Intel Committee, the Select Committee on Intelligence, was one of the primary drivers of secrecy around the Kennedy files. So Tom Cotton, I think, was born in the 80s, and I like Tom Cotton a lot. I know him. I know his wife, who worked at CIA. Nice, super nice people. But when it came down to it, when Trump gets elected and gets inaugurated in January, Tom Cotton's he's denied this, but he's lying because it's true. I know for a fact. Tom Cotton's running around being like, well, whatever we do, we can't put people in place. We're going to declassify all the Kennedy assassination files. 62 years later. I think Tom Cotton was born in the 80s. Why would he care?
It's not a sources and methods thing anymore.
Yeah, like, what is that? Why would Tom Cotton be so concerned about releasing the Kennedy documents that he's trying to prevent people from getting jobs on the basis of his belief that they might reveal those documents? Like, what is that?
Because
it's disqualifying. He shouldn't be in the Senate, of course.
Because he knows that is the key that can pick the lock. That something happened in 1963. We had a coup d'etat.
Yep. Yes.
The country's never faced up to it.
No.
The country understands at like 80% something's dead wrong. They understood at the time the Warren Commission was gun-decked.
Yeah.
You go back and read this new book even by a New York Times writer. You see what a joke it was, how the FBI stepped in immediately. Jerry Ford was their guy. It was a complete joke.
But he was made president without an election.
Made president without an election. I'm just saying, there are no coincidences.
Jerry Ford of the Warren Commission becomes president without an election, and you're like,
If you go, I've read the testimony of the Warren Commission. Just in the Warren Commission, in the sixth floor, in the depository where the gunman sat, right next to him, the guy, I think his name was Willie Davis, who was a worker. Of the black guys were up on the top deck pointing afterwards when the shot took place. He was going to go join those guys. He actually sat there and had his lunch right next to where the assassin was. Now, you know, assassins in CIA and in Navy SEALs, I mean, their heart's beating out of their chest before that happens because they understand it may be the last time they take a breath on Earth is when they fire. So they are really ready to meet their maker, and they're highly focused. The last thing they're going to do on Earth is get that target. That is just these cartons just suppressing by a few feet. This guy's giving testimony, and it's unbelievable. They go, well, you were there? Yes. What were you doing? He says, I was eating a chicken sandwich, a bag of Fritos, and a Coke. And they're going, you're right next to him, and everything's going, and you're hanging on the edge of it. And then all of a sudden, Jerry Ford steps in and goes, excuse me, I have a question. Do you have a criminal record? And the guy goes, excuse me? He goes, do you have a criminal record? And the guy goes, well, I was picked up. No. You're a felon, right? And the whole conversation drops. I go, oh, my God. We're literally at the moment, and literally 10 minutes before the shot takes place, we have a witness that's there. And you got to ask him, did you hear anything? Did you see anything?
Yeah, no.
And Jerry Ford told us, as you mentioned, with Angleton and the guys, a few years later, out of nowhere, on Watergate, another operation they were deeply involved in, right? He's made vice president of the United States.
Yeah, but because the president's most popular president in American history is undone by a naval intel officer posing as a journalist.
Exactly.
Just from the Washington Post. So you wonder, like, a lot of this is taking place in private, and it's one of the great frustrations as an American is you don't know what your government's doing, and you have no way to find out. Even when it's done 60 years ago, you don't know. But some of it's taking place totally in public, the Tom Cotton stuff, and it grieves me to say this because I like Tom, and I think he's smart, really smart, actually, and a good guy in a lot of ways. But he's acting on behalf of CIA, not on behalf of the people of Arkansas, obviously. But then there's Lindsey Graham, who's like florid, out in public. Like there's no kind of hiding who Lindsey Graham is, and what is that?
Yeah, the whole Ukraine thing, he and Pompeo, how the weekend before the drone assault takes place, he's in Ukraine saying something's going to happen. He's in France. I mean, if you talk to people over there, it's like he had inside baseball. He was all jacked up. The good things are going to happen. Pompeo's in like Odessa giving a talk. I mean, what is Mike Pompeo? There's a middle of a war over there. We're trying to extract ourselves. What is Mike Pompeo in Odessa giving some, a rally speech, essentially pump these guys up? And he's talking about certain things that could happen or certain positive things to hang in there on this war. Exactly what President Trump's counter to. President Trump is trying to have everybody lay down their guns and because right now the British papers report is 1 million Russians dead or wounded. There's 750,000 Ukrainians dead or wounded. I mean, this has been devastating, like World War I type of casualties. President Trump is sitting there going, we need to put the guns down. I need to get people at the table. We need to talk. We'll even buy your dirt. We'll buy your rare earths. We'll put money in, which we oppose. But if President Trump thinks he needs that for a peace deal, we'll support him. What is Mike Pompeo in Odessa jacking these people up? What is Lindsey Graham over there jacking people up about? These questions have to be asked. We have to ask what part of our government is going against the commander-in-chief and what the commander-in-chief is trying to do.
Is it legal for Lindsey to do that?
Well, there's Logan Act.
Yeah.
I called for his arrest.
Good.
Right. Absolutely. Or cancel his passport. Do two things. Either don't let him back in the country or arrest him. And I'm adamant about this in Pompeo also, because I think there are arguments around the Logan Act that they're over there countering what the commander-in-chief's trying to do. And
and they have security clearances too, which I don't have. And you don't have, I assume, a security clearance. Not anymore.
Right.
But why does...
I don't want one right now.
No, I don't either. But
you can sit there and go, hey, I didn't, don't blame me.
No.
Don't blame me. I didn't.
But why does Lindsey Graham and why does Mike Pompeo have a security clearance?
Well, I think I got to ask Mike, because I'm very disappointed in him. I knew him for years.
Me too.
The guy I know today, the guy I see today is not the guy I knew.
So here's a company we're always excited to advertise because we actually use their products every day. It's Merryweather Farms. Remember when everybody knew their neighborhood butcher? You look back and you feel like, oh, there was something really important about that, knowing the person who cut your meat. And at some point, your grandparents knew the people who raised their meat so they could trust what they ate. But that time is long gone. It's been replaced by an era of grocery store mystery meat boxed by distant beef corporations. Ugh. None of which raised a single cow. Unlike your childhood, they don't know you, they're not interested in you. The whole thing is creepy. The only thing that matters to them is money, and God knows what you're eating. Merryweather Farms is the answer to that. They raise their cattle in the U.S., in Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado, and they prepare their meat themselves in their facilities in this country. No middlemen, no outsourcing, no foreign beef sneaking through a back door. Nobody wants foreign meat. Sorry, we have a great meat, the best meat here in the United States, and we buy ours at Merryweather Farms. Their cuts are pasture-raised, hormone-free, antibiotic-free, and absolutely delicious. I gorged on one last night. You got to try this, for real. Every day we eat it. Go to merryweatherfarms.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker76 for 15% off your first order. That's merryweatherfarms.com/Tucker.
And I think people have to. I think they ought to come on when they come on TV. Is they ought to have the like NASCAR drivers, like whose payroll they on.
Exactly.
Right. The American people are at least ought to be in a Chiron who they're taking money from.
But what's the deal with Lynn? Let me just say, I've known Lindsey for 25 years, and it's impossible not to like Lindsey Graham. He's one of the most charming, funny. He's just a wonderful person to travel with. He's the most charming person in the world. I'll just say that because it's just true. I like him. If he was here, I would be having fun with Lindsey Graham. But his effect on the United States is so destructive. I don't understand what that is. What is his motive? You know him well, of course, because you're...
Well, I know. Look, I think, number one, he's very involved in the Pentagon, on Armed Services Committee. The Pentagon, the building runs like the building's going to run. I mean, it's $1 trillion. Why, when President Trump says we're going to go to a hemispheric defense, from Greenland to block the Russian submarines, to Alaska, maybe Canada for the Arctic, because that's the new great game of the 21st century.
That seems reasonable.
To the Panama Canal, because they're going to block the Chinese and Russian navies and get the Chinese out of the Caribbean. We'll deal with Venezuela. We'll have the Central Pacific, which has always been kind of our strategic pivot, the 3 island chains. And America's hermetically sealed. You add a Golden Dome or some sort of ballistic missile, America can live in peace, and we can do
greatest.
And we can do expeditionary. Not that we're not engaged in the world. You can do expeditionary forces anywhere you want in the world.
You
but
can't
then,
put Chinese infrastructure in St. Croix, which they have a lot of in St. Croix, which we control.
Exactly.
So you can't let the Chinese control your hemisphere. That seems reasonable. And they'll say to us, okay, get out of Japan. At which point you say, okay. That seems like logical.
This budget is not $1 trillion going up, right? Because right now it's over $1 trillion. If you add the supplement that's coming in, the reconciliation bill with the NDAA, you're over $1 trillion, and it's only going to keep increasing. This is the way the defense contractors make money. They embed it over there. They kind of run the building right now. You don't see any pushback by armed services. In fact, every district's got huge plants. As you know, our industrial policy that we do have is really around arms manufacturing.
Yes, that's it.
Right? And it's a high margin business, and we want to sell weapons to the entire world. It's that system that's running the country. Remember, the difference between President Trump's first term and his second term is what happened under Biden is a massive concentration of power because they didn't back Lena Khan or the antitrust people like we have now in President Trump's administration, like Gail Slater, and what's happening to the FTC under Andrew Ferguson, taking big tech to court and trying to break them up. Right now, you have Wall Street, you have big tech, you have big agriculture, you have big pharma, you have the big healthcare industry, you have the defense contractors, you have the concentration of these massive industries that have every lobbyist, every communications expert, all the big law firms on their payroll. If you and I wanted to start today and say, hey, guess what? We want to take on one of the industries. Let's take on big ag. You literally can't get a great law firm to represent you or great lobbyists because they're all hired by these guys. That concentration.
And they'll set up regulatory hurdles that are insurmountable.
This is the regulatory cap.
I'm living that in something that we're doing on the side. And you just find out that it's like crazy.
That concentration of power.
Oh my God.
Regulatory capture and really regulatory merger. We said when we gave China everything after Tiananmen Square, when we gave them most favored nation status and WTO and access, that the more they get prosperous because they were a backward agricultural country at the time. The more prosperous they get, the more they'll become like a liberal democracy like the United States.
I remember that.
We actually have copied the model of the Chinese Communist Party. They have a handful of state-owned industries, very powerful, merged in with the central government, an authoritarian government. That's what we have, and that's what President Trump, the promise of President Trump is to break that. The American people don't want it. They hate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.